As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
I think we have to stay on the Sony bandwagon here because there was a relatively big story this week that I thought flew under the radar a little bit. And the headline here is PlayStation and Switch sales are suffering as the gaming wars heat up. And the article here talks about Sony lowering their forecast for the PS5, saying they expected to sell 11.5 million units in the fiscal year ending March. That's down from the 14.8 million units previously forecast. One of the analysts said the guidance cut was disappointing. Sony's overall games and network services unit also posted an 8% drop in sales for the quarter compared to the same quarter last year. Nintendo also having issues. They said they were expecting to sell now 23 million units by the end of their fiscal year, down from a previous projections of 24 million and 25.5 million units. Both stocks went down on all this news. And so, guys, what do you make of Sony and Nintendo saying they're going to be shipping fewer consoles than expected? So, lowering their guidance in terms of total units shipped. And in Sony's case, even their services and gaming stuff, the non-console, non-hardware stuff also dropping. And this seems very specific to Sony and Nintendo. Curious what you guys think of that, or why you think this might be. Is it emergence from COVID? Is it, what are the factors here? Is it product? Is it Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, just being such a juggernaut together that the competitors are throwing their hands in the air, waving the white flag? I'm being facetious, but I'm curious if you guys have thoughts.
Definitely think that there's a couple different things. I mean, supply chain shortages have obviously affected both of these massively. And I do think that part of the problem with the continued issues of the supply chain is over time, the demand drops. When you can't get something forever and ever, eventually you sort of give up on getting it. So I definitely feel as if that's a piece of the puzzle. At least when it comes to Nintendo, there hasn't been a ton of innovation in the Switch. So that could definitely be hurting them a little bit. And quite frankly, I think the PS5 is a little bit disappointing to a lot of gamers. Even in look alone, I don't think that it's necessarily, this isn't to say to everyone, but the hype around it is just, it really died down kind of quickly to me. I just don't think it had as much of a splash and as much of a punch. Part of that, I think, is because it wasn't available, but part of it is because, they immediately, sued the people who made the custom sides for it and didn't make an incredibly appealing design. And I didn't have an awesome rollout. I remember the Xbox refrigerators better than I remember any marketing Sony did around the PS5. So I just don't think it made a lasting splash in the way that they were hoping. That's not to say that I think if there's a bunch more units produced that they wouldn't sell pretty quickly. But I do think that lowering the amount that's sold is fairly reasonable at this point. But I want to hear the analyst's view on this.
But Lindsay, you don't. What I'm hearing from you is you don't see this as like alarm bells going off, right? You're not concerned about Sony's general direction in gaming or Nintendo's general direction in gaming as a consequence of any of this?
No, because I think we're getting to a point where the market is fragmented enough that these companies are actually going to be forced to innovate. I think that there's been plenty of new players, and the huge interest in gaming PCs has also been a big change that we've seen over the past 2 years, partially as a result of the pandemic. I think we're actually reaching a point, though, where I expect to see people making bigger moves within these companies. And obviously, we've seen that just in acquisitions alone. And I know Sony has said that they're not stopping anytime soon. So I don't think it's alarm bells if we hadn't had so many enormous pieces of news with acquisitions. I might be a little bit more worried that they weren't doing anything to try and innovate. But it seems like they are trying to turn over a new leaf, or kind of go in a push themselves a little bit further than they have in the past. And I think that's probably due to more fragmented marketplace, supply chain issues, more people interested in gaming, more people interested in PCs. Market looks different. It's time to adjust.
I think all really good points.
I agree.
I mean, Jeff or Jimmy, do either of you think this is just Sony and Nintendo not making big enough moves? Like, do you think none of them's taking big enough risks?
No, I mean, I think this story in and of itself is entirely about the supply chain. I think Lindsay is correct. Having said that, I think the media narrative and the fact that we're even talking about this, it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that the reason why sales are down is not because Activision or Microsoft bought Activision. Having said that, if we start seeing that become the media narrative, you could start to see sales be affected in the future, almost as a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm a lot more worried about Sony than I'm about Nintendo. Nintendo beats to their own drum. That will always be the case. I know I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I saw a whole bunch of tweets about the Direct today, and I think they're bringing back Wii Sports for the Switch. People are super jacked up about that. I'm sure there was 10 to 15 other announcements that maybe we'll cover that I didn't even get a chance to catch everything. But Nintendo is going to be just fine. I think they've just proven that their IP is so strong, and they're not competing necessarily for the same type of gamer / people can buy a Nintendo console and another console. Sony, definitely a little bit more worried. Having said that, they have great studios, they have great content still, and I don't think that they're going to completely get run over by Xbox. You got to remember, they're still kicking Xbox's butt this generation. I mean, they're outselling them pretty significantly. And, up until probably 9 months ago, all anyone would say is Sony is kicking Microsoft's ass, and Microsoft is so far behind. They have no studios, they have no games, they have no franchises. So I don't think just because Microsoft has won the last couple battles, they're both going to do well. People are going to still want to play Sony games. That's not going to change.
I mean, Microsoft, to your point, has done an incredible job of changing the narrative, though, right? And reframing everything, and Sony looking like kind of the loser now. To be fair, also, it's not like a small drop in projected units. Like the projection dropped 3 million units, like roughly whatever it is, like 20%, 25% almost. That's not insignificant. That's not like a little miss. It's a pretty big miss. And I'm curious. I mean, it sounds, Jeff, like you're not ascribing much of it. You're agreeing with Lindsay and not ascribing much of it to anything Microsoft has done. This is just coincidence that, there's going to be 3 million units short after, Microsoft made this big move in the industry.
Coincidence. I don't know, Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, coincidence. This would be more of concern if we're talking about like the PlayStation 2 after the PS1, and we're not in a COVID era where there are supply shortages. I'm not super worried by it. Actually, what's interesting to me about this isn't necessarily the lack of sale, or rather the reduction in sales that they're anticipating. I'm very interested to see how the mobile market's going to be affected as a result of the downturn in console sales. Because I think all those users, they're not going to go to other consoles. I think they're going to go to mobile.
As a total aside,
I don't necessarily agree with that. You think that
it's a huge tangent. That's just where I'm seeing this happening.
I want to go there. Yeah. I love it because it's a good question. Well, I don't know.
I'll try to re-listen.
No. I'm happy to go there, but can we go there in the context of a story that I don't have up because I didn't really find a good article. But if you watched any tech YouTube this week, the big thing that you would have seen announced was all the Steam Deck unveils, right? Cool. The teardowns, the unboxings, right? Like this was all over YouTube, was Steam Deck. And almost across the board, the the resounding conclusion was this thing is incredible. I saw a quote, I think it was Linus Tech Tips, Linus Sebastian, who said, this is the greatest innovation in PC gaming in the last 20 years. And so, and this is a mobile device. None of you think this may have an impact on shipments for Nintendo or Sony? It's essentially another console competitor.
I don't see it as a perfect substitute. Maybe for Switch, because Switch is portable, right? So but people who are buying the Switch want to play Nintendo content. So the Steam Deck's not going to change that. But I do see the Steam Deck being competitive maybe with Switch. I just don't see that people who want to buy, and this was my point to you, Jimmy, where I sort of vehemently disagreed a little bit. I don't know that people, to me, the mobile market and the PC console market, they're sort of scratching two different itches, right? They're different types of games, different types of gamers, different types of experiences. So I don't know that people are hey, I really wanted to play Madden or Call of Duty and I can't go buy an Xbox. So I'm going to go play Candy Crush, or maybe a little bit you could have overlap with some of the shooters like Call of Duty Mobile. I guess I could buy that a little bit, but I just don't know if it's a perfect substitute. If anything, if you said people are just going to start downloading PC games, I think I could buy that a little bit more.
Definitely a different itch. I had a lot in recent weeks, more than ever before. I've had a lot of people, I think as we all do, listeners included, all of us that are part of this ecosystem that talk and live and breathe games, any of your friends that are, just casual gamers are going to go to you probably, right, for advice and things of that nature. And in the recent weeks, I had more than ever before friends asking me, console gamers in particular, about handheld mobile devices like the Razer Kishi, Paul, that you got me in Vegas, and so many others. I think we covered one 2 weeks ago. I think there's one called the Bend. I mean, there's so many models out there, right? And it just had me thinking about it in a different way, where mobile games are getting better. And I think you're right about the Madden community, because it's a very loyal community, and 2K as well, that those people are more likely to just continue playing an older release or on an older console with worse graphics. But I think, like you said, not just where there's overlap and then I can play COD Mobile, because I'm going to play, I'm different because I'm a PC gamer, but it's not that it's a different itch. It's just that mobile games are getting better. And even if it's not, like you said, the same scratch, that same feel you get, there are going to be great games coming out on mobile, and there are very good games on mobile that take time, and we only have so much time in a day for these hobbies or whatever you want to call it. And as those games get better and that more time is spent there, it's less time elsewhere, especially if you're just kind of already barred from playing on a new gen console. So I don't disagree that, like I said, that I think a lot of the true diehards are going to always want a controller in their hands. But I've seen handhelds where it's literally a controller with a phone holder, right? And then you put your phone in there and it Bluetooths. And essentially for a 7-year-old, not for the 25-year-old that's played every 2K since it first came out in 2000, but for that 7-8-year-old, that could be just as good. I don't know.
That's fair. I'll buy that.
And I didn't say it was definitely gonna be the trend. I just suspected an increase in mobile gaming with the console shortages, disproportionate to what we've seen in the past, and kind of making up for that gap in a little bit, because we've seen a massive push towards mobile gaming in the last 2 years, and especially in developing countries. So why not here too, if the games are getting to be that good?
Guys, I mean, I agree. It'll be interesting to watch. I'm curious to see how Steam Deck has an impact on any of these numbers, right? Like if in 2 quarters from now we see, similar misses, but without the easy crutch of supply chain issues. So we'll see. I suspect Steam Deck's going to have an impact. That's call it my prediction. I really do think people are going to see how good this platform is and how good PC gaming can be from the Steam Deck. So